We've all been seeing, as it relates to our government, talking about aliens and UFOs, and what is the biblical significance of this? You're going to want to stick around and hear our message today. Well, welcome back, and L.A. Marzulli is here, and before we get into this very important topic, I want to remind all of you about our Orlando Prophecy Summit, which is going to be happening in Orlando, Florida, February 29th through March 3rd. L.A. is going to be there talking about, again, this very important topic. If you have not joined us with that, you can see how you can get, even with live stream, OrlandoProphecySummit.com, or you can go to ProphecyWatchers.com to get all the information. But you're going to want to join us. We have over 18 speakers that are going to be there, keeping you updated on all the current events, and one of them is what we're going to talk today. Welcome, L.A.
Great to be here, Mondo. Thank you.
So right out of the gate here, you know, we have people that are wondering, why are we discussing UFOs or even Roswell? I mean, let's, for the sake of comforting people that might not know this background, why are we discussing this? Why have you spent, again, much of your really last decade or more making films and other things? So let's kind of ease people into this topic.
Well, we know that Jesus warns us of a couple of things before his return. It'd be like the days of Noah. Mm-hmm. That's certainly a red letter, no pun intended, but it's a red letter statement. Then he tells us that it'd be like the days of Noah. And then he goes, men and women will faint from fear from what is coming upon the earth, which in my opinion is one of the most sobering statements throughout the entire biblical narrative. Men and women fainting from fear for what's coming upon the earth. Then he says that even the elect would be deceived if that were possible. So when you start putting all that together in one package and then add Paul's admonition that the dragon, i.e. Satan, comes with all signs and lying wonders, whatever is coming before his return, whatever is coming is going to be unprecedented. It's going to be something that will cause men and women to faint from fear from what is coming upon the earth. So we can look up the Greek on that, and upon means exactly what it says, what the English translation, something is coming, something is coming. So if the UFO phenomena wasn't manifesting, I'd be trying to look for whatever was manifesting that would fit that criteria. Guess what? The UFO phenomena fits the criteria of the biblical narrative to a T. And it's what's manifesting now, and it's what our government has been promulgating, including in the halls of Congress.
Yeah. You know, I think it's important when we look around and we see what's happening in the world. We know that when we come to the end of the age, we're not going from Mayberry, you know, to this horrible situation. So as we see the years that are progressing up, maybe the last 10, 20, 30, 40, really ever since Israel became a nation, the way the world is shaping I would say the theories, the ethos, the phraseologies, the language, whether it's Hollywood or our own government, they're shaping the story of what people, the unsuspecting world, we know that the unsuspecting world gets shocked. So if they're doing this, to me, it's very poignant that something is going on there. So I think this comes into, give us a background, if you will, as well, that what you've been watching, again, the world do, and what caused you to create the whole series. Let's talk about the series.
There's 9 films in the series.
Talk about what led to that, and then what you've kind of covered, and then I want to talk about the current 2 films.
Well, what really kicked it off for me was in 2017 when Commander David Fravor comes on the record when Tucker asked him about the tic-tac shaped object that he chased. I mean, he had direct contact with this thing. Whatever it was not from this earth.
And he's a Navy pilot,
He's
very skilled.
Like
he's not a novice.
Impeccable credentials. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, and that's why they trotted him out. In my opinion, was because here's a guy. It's not, you know, some farmer out in the middle of nowhere, you know, and it's like, well, you know, maybe he saw something. But this is a Navy pilot, you know, and his wingman, which is actually a wing woman. Both of them appeared months later on 60 Minutes. And they're together talking about, and she was very reticent to come on the record and talk about what she had seen, but she does so on 60 Minutes. So now you've got 2 witnesses, and they're talking about this tic-tac shaped object, which moved There was no rotor wash, there were no wings, there was no exhaust, there's nothing. And it moved basically like a bullet out of a gun. So, we can dismiss all this. What does it have to do with me? I go to church every Sunday, blah, blah, blah. Or we can look that this is, in my opinion, the great delusion that we're warned about in 2 Thessalonians. I've just changed the verbiage up a little bit. I call it the coming great deception. And I think it dovetails into the prophetic warnings that Jesus gives us.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to me as we watch the culture. I think about a young child, teenager maybe, or somebody under 30, where they've been trained and through Hollywood talking about, again, let's say the Avengers series and all the Marvel stuff. So to them, they just live and breathe in this world of other beings from everywhere else and superhuman strength. And so when you think about 2 Thessalonians 2, it's the context is end times. It's certainly eschatology. I remember hearing one ministry used to say, well, this is the lie, it's specific, is evolution. And you're like, no, the context is eschatology. But the one thing that they got right is this idea of an evolutionary paradigm.
Yeah, exactly.
And that to me, from an astronomy perspective, you see NASA and others, they are desperate to find these exoplanets, to find life anywhere. They're doing all these operations and missions because what we see is, again, this compatibility. Talk about that for a moment, because and then before our break here, where how does evolution come to play from, like, say, a NASA perspective and then into the spiritual, what we're seeing, the lie, the setup of it?
The Darwinian paradigm, remember, Darwin is 150 years ago, whatever. He didn't know about DNA. He didn't know anything about that. And so his whole theory is basically busted because of the DNA double helix of life. Yeah. And which we know it's a very complex coding
information.
system.
It's a code.
It's a code. Mm-hmm. And everything on the planet has a DNA code to it. So now we can splice and move stuff around, but we don't see a chimpanzee evolving. There's nothing on this planet that's evolving. We get micro evolution where, beasts can get bigger, stuff like that. But a hummingbird is still a hummingbird and always will be, because the DNA, the code system that's in that hummingbird will always create another hummingbird, not a penguin. It's never going to happen. So the neo-Darwinists realize that there's a flaw in the Darwinian thinking, in the Darwinian model. So the neo-Darwinists are looking to what's out there. They call it panspermia. They believe that somehow all life was seeded here, either deliberately or by accident, from some sort of extraterrestrial
entity, whatever, being, whatever.
Exactly, wherever. And the whole thing falls flat on its face. Fermi's paradox basically states, if we're so populated with where are they? Where is everybody? And we know that everybody isn't here. The agenda of these entities, despite what you'll see on Ancient Aliens, is very nefarious and very dark. And we delve into this in all of the films. We show it. We pull the covers back off of the idea of friendly ETs, and we focus on counter mutilations, on the abduction phenomena. Why, if they're really such benevolent, why not give us the cure to cancer? Why not do something happy? No, it's always under the cover of darkness, always under the cover of darkness. And there is a physicality to it. Make no mistake about it. People are taken. They are moved through the window. They go through the window. We are looking at a future physics. Now, before you say, "LA, that's impossible," let me tell you something real quick. Peter's in the jail cell. That angel that comes to see him comes through the wall. How does that work? And then the chains that hold Peter to the wall, they're just immediately let loose. The jail cell door opens by itself. The other jailers, everybody's switched off. They go out and the front gate opens by themselves. That's a good guy. Do we think for one moment that the fallen ones don't have exactly the same power? They can manipulate space, time, matter, and energy. And we see this all throughout the biblical narrative.
Absolutely. We're going to take a little break here where you can see how to get our magazine, again, which is another way that our goal is to keep you informed of what is happening around the world. So take a listen.
In case you haven't noticed, the whole world is spinning out of control. But we are not surprised, because many of the things taking place were prophesied in the Bible thousands of years ago. That's why we want to offer you a very special subscription to our magazine, The Prophecy Watcher, that will keep you on the cutting edge of Bible prophecy. Stay informed on prophetic world events. Follow the nuclear threats from Russia and Iran, China's march to world domination, the likelihood of another global pandemic, the rise of artificial intelligence and transhumanism, war in the Middle East, the UFO phenomenon, and the latest technology preparing the world for the mark of the beast. With your gift of $50 or more to support the worldwide outreach of Prophecy Watchers, you will receive 12 issues of the magazine in either print or digital format. You will also receive 10 bonus DVDs that feature in-depth teaching on the ancient book of Enoch, heaven and the New Jerusalem, the biblical case for the rapture, a look at how God put the gospel in the stars, what really happened at the Tower of Babel, and Ezekiel's prophecy on the Battle of Gog and Magog. This special offer is available anywhere in the United States with free shipping included. Don't wait. Pick up the phone right now and call the toll-free number on your screen or visit us at prophecywatchers.tv. Stand with us today and help us take the message of Christ's soon return to the whole world.
Well, welcome back, and we are here with L.A. Marzulli. And L.A., we've kind of given the background of and the paradigm of what we're seeing and how the Christian needs to be prepared. But this is what I think is fascinating. And watching this film, the latest film, is that it all comes back to one location. And 1947, and maybe I'm sure you've heard about Roswell, maybe you don't know the background to it, and LA does a great job in here of helping to understand kind of how this comes to be. And so give us kind of the background here, the title of the two films, Roswell Revisited, Exoneration, and Roswell Revisited, The Debris Field. So kind of give us, let's jump into this idea of exoneration. For people that don't know, what's important about Roswell?
Well, 1947, something crashes outside of the city of Roswell. Rancher Mac Brazel collects some of this wreckage, whatever it is, and brings it back into Roswell and shows it to the sheriff. The sheriff immediately gets on the phone with the 509th Bombing Group, which at the time is the only nuclear-equipped bombing group on the planet, okay? And Jesse Marcel Sr. is dispatched, along with Mac Brazel, out to the ranch to examine what this wreckage might be. Marcel gets to the debris field. He's completely astounded on it. This thing goes on for like the length of 3 football fields. He never sees the bodies. He doesn't see the actual craft itself. So we think it's a skip site. And where Marcel is, he's here, let's say, but the actual crash is, 15 miles away. We also have a witness, and we talk about it in number 2, that was camping with her family a distance away. And that night she saw the craft come in, which was at least, according to her testimony, over 100 feet wide. We're looking at something really big, 100 feet wide. Do the math there. So Marcel Sr. gets some of this stuff up, he puts it in a box, and he leaves to go back to the base.
And he's an intelligence officer, right?
He's the 509th Bombing Group's intelligence officer.
This isn't some rookie. I mean, he's got serious position.
He sees weather balloons all day long. He is trained. He knows what's out there. He's the intelligence officer, for crying out loud. He knows what's out there. He's been trained in it. And so he brings back the wreckage to his family, 3 or 4 in the morning. He wakes up his beautiful wife and his young son, Jesse Marcel Jr., who's 11 years old at the time. It's all spread out. The wreckage is spread out on the table on the kitchen floor, and they're trying to put things together, and of course they can't. And Marcel Sr. goes, whatever you're looking at is from another world. You may never see this again. They pack it up, they bring it back in. The Roswell newspaper, the Roswell Daily, the next day publishes Army recovers flying saucer. And that goes worldwide. That's a global event. You know, the operators, everything's ringing off the hook. And so the following day, we get another headline on the Roswell Daily from General Ramey, who says, excitement not justified. And he empties the saucer, whatever that means, and tells us that it's not justified. They hold a press conference. They trot out Jesse Marcel Sr. On the floor is a weather balloon. And it shows no signs of being outdoors. It's just a weather balloon, which is kind of cut up, and there it is. And you can see from the picture, Marcel's looking like, you've got to be kidding me. That's what the look is. Marcel is a patsy. in our opinion. And that's why we call the film Exoneration. We interviewed one of his best friends, Dr. Richard O'Connor. We interviewed Jesse Marcel Jr., and I should back up. O'Connor is Jesse Marcel Jr.'s close friend. Linda Marcel is Jesse Marcel Jr.'s widow. Denise Marcel is Marcel Jr.'s daughter. So we're as close to it as we can. I actually interviewed Jesse Marcel Jr. years ago, and we reenact that interview in the film. So all of them come on the record basically stating that he was a patsy, he was a fall guy. And we know we've got some other witnesses that come on the record in the film. One of my favorite parts is the telegram that Gemma Ramey is holding. So Ramey's holding this telegram in his hand, and he doesn't realize that, decades later, we're going to have computers that will be able to enlarge things and zoom in things and figure out what we're looking at. And that's the work of David Rudiak. You can go online and see it for yourself, but we show it in the film. And of course, there's always skeptics and debunkers. Well, it really doesn't say the word disk. Yes, it does. It says disk twice. And then it also says the bodies, the occupants of the craft, everything shipped to Wright-Patterson. We also have a deathbed confession from Colonel Hill in the film that Jim and Carolyn Rankin were there. And they're giving Hill's testimony. When Carolyn asked him, what about Roswell? And Hill said, it wasn't a weather balloon. And then Hill begins to extrapolate. He was flown in from Dallas-Fort Worth to Roswell. He was an intelligence officer in World War II, forerunner of the OSS, which was the forerunner of the CIA, I should say, OSS, forerunner of the CIA. And he tries to make contact with one of the aliens who are alive. We also talked to a woman who had an encounter with a nurse who knew the other nurses at Roswell, and they were all shipped off to a convent. I mean, we go deep. It's a deep, deep dive. And in our opinion, we've exonerated the Marcel name in the film. But then in the second film, we go out to the debris field, and that's where the fun begins.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is what I love about what LA's doing here is he's not just sitting in his chair, even in his library, doing research, but you're actually going out there. When I watched the film, it was powerful to see that here you are sitting with, again, Jesse Marcel Jr.'s widow.
Right.
Talk a little bit about the harassment for them and their family. Here's this 11-year-old boy. He sees these things. He grows up, of course, living under that paradigm of what his dad sees, and then, of course, gets married and has kids and everything else. And talk about the harassment that they got.
They moved to Montana, and Jesse Marcel Jr. would go out and begin to talk about these things. The phone would ring, they'd pick up the phone, and there'd be nobody there. They would call the number, or the voice would say, call this number, and they would call the number, and there'd be nobody there. Or they would pick up the phone, and no one would say anything. And this continued for a period of time. It definitely spooked the family. And this is where everything started to come out with Stan Friedman's work and Charles Berlitz's work on the Roswell crash. I mean, I remember reading that when I was a kid and wondering, I've got to get to the debris field. And then at almost 73 years old, I find myself standing in the debris field.
What was that like? Tell us.
You can see it in the film. I mean, I'm beaming here just remembering it, because all of a sudden I'm in the debris field. And it doesn't, there's no 100-foot saucer crash into the hills. There's nothing there. It's a wasteland. There's dried up cow patties on the ground. Mm-hmm. That's what we're looking at. It's a range. It's free range. But we were there with Chuck Zukowski and Frank Kimbler, both ufologists, major researchers. In fact, Chuck is featured in number 6 on cattle mutilations. Mm-hmm. He's a go-to guy, in our opinion. Mm-hmm. And he took us to ranchers, but I digress. And that film is a must-see, because we connect it to the abduction phenomena. But I mean, I'm hopping around here because there's so much. There's 9 films. I mean, we can't possibly talk about 9 films in a half an hour. I'm out in the debris field with Frank Kimbler and Chuck Zukowski, and they've got metal detectors. And this is all on film. We flew the drone, and you can see that the drone is capturing where we are. We're like little ants, and it just goes on for miles. We are in the middle of nowhere. But they're in a debris field with the metal detectors, and we prayed up. Gil Zimmerman, Jim Peterson, and myself, all 3 born-again, believing Christians, we get prayed up. And the prayer is, Lord, show us something. Reveal to us what you want to reveal to us. All of a sudden, like less than 5 minutes later, Frank Kimbler goes, hey guys, they got a hit, come over. So we go running over with the cameras. It's all on film. And he's going, deet, 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 puts it down, takes a little spade, goes in like this, and not there. and he keeps digging. And finally, he realizes that whatever it is that set the thing off, he's got it. So now he's picking up the dirt. Here's the metal detector. Nothing. Puts the dirt there. Gets another handful. Nothing. Puts the dirt back. Third handful. Beep, beep, beep. Okay, it's in the hand. Then he takes a little bit out like this and puts it in both hands, goes like this, that one. So now we know.
Basically, it's sifting right there.
Sifting. It's in this hand. He goes like this, all on film. We find a little piece of metal. It's about this big. Now, Frank's been out there before. He's got 20 samples of it, and he knows what it looks like. Before I cut to the chase, we show a clip of a UFO, what we believe is a UFO, coming down and skipping. And it's in black and white, and this thing is white and glowing, and it comes down like this and hits once, bounces up, but the second time as it comes in, it crashes and it explodes, and the explosion is very violent. We've had the metal tested, and first of all, the metal was buried 6 to 8 inches in the ground. That's the first thing. The second thing is the metal is folded in on itself, and the pieces we got are about the size of my little pinky nail, roughly. And it shows something catastrophic happened to the metal, something very violent. It's been heated up. There are, at a microscopic level, there are something that goes in and then shatters the back end of the piece of metal out. Like a bullet when you shoot something, there's a hole, but the backside blows out. That's what the metal looks like. And a metallurgist, two different metallurgists have looked at the sample and said, whatever this was, there's evidence of high heat and also some kind of an explosion, which fits exactly what we're trying to say.
Yeah, you're definitely not going to want to miss LA's research into all this. Again, he goes to the scientists, he goes to researchers, he goes into the field. So take a listen.
If you're tuning in for the first time today, I'm sure you're intrigued by this fascinating conversation. We first met L.A. Marzulli 12 years ago, and we've been amazed as we've watched him explore some of the fringe subjects of the Bible, from the Nephilim to the Shroud of Turin and on to alien abductions, the cattle mutilation phenomenon, and the increasingly controversial UFO craze. L.A. has been on the trail of biblical truth. As you've heard today, this strange event took place in Roswell, New Mexico, over 75 years ago and created one of the greatest cover-ups in human history. But in the last few years, we seem to be getting closer to full disclosure. Talk show hosts, government insiders, military pilots, whistleblowers. It seems like the proverbial cat is out of the bag. Hollywood certainly has helped, turning cartoon characters into the world's new superheroes. But Christians know better. These so-called alien craft are just another effort by a fallen cherub named Lucifer to deceive the world. Imagine if one day millions of people disappeared and hundreds of gigantic spaceships appeared, telling Earth's inhabitants that they were one of our original creators. The Bible tells us that if it were possible, even the elect would be deceived. And since they have superpowers far beyond those of mortal men, who wouldn't believe them? LA has taken the Roswell investigation to a whole new level, interviewing people who know the real truth. He believes we are very close to the rapture of the church, along with full government disclosure on UFOs. Could these two events be connected? Believers in Jesus will be taken in the rapture, and suddenly the paradigm changes. As LA likes to say, when we go up, they show up. LA's two-part series, Revisiting Roswell, includes 2 DVDs, Evidence from the Debris Field and Exoneration. We're making them both available for your gift of $60 or more, with shipping included anywhere in the USA. Or for our international viewers, download them in our streaming store by visiting prophecywatchers.com. Call the toll-free number you see on your screen, or visit us at prophecywatchers.tv and ask for the Roswell Disclosure Package. We're also including a free bonus, a DVD by Gary and Mondo discussing a top-secret government project, Project Jehovah. You're going to hear some shocking information about alien technology and how our government has reverse engineered these top secret alien devices to change our world. How were Albert Einstein, Harry Truman, and Robert Oppenheimer all involved in the cover-up? The inside story is stranger than fiction. As Gary Stearman likes to say, Satan is very clever. As we draw closer to the end of this age, we all need to be on high alert, warning the world of things to come and the hope we have in Jesus. And keep looking up, not for UFOs, but for the return of our Savior. He is coming soon.
Well, welcome back. In LA, we kind of doing what we can in such a short time. What we're trying to do, again, we're taking this from a Christian perspective. We're trying to understand what's happening out there in the world and to see it through a biblical framework. So in our last couple minutes here, two things. Wrap us up. What do you think the end game is? How does this tie in with biblical prophecy?
The end game, and our government is already leaching this out constantly. UFOs are real, burgeoning, not going away. From Commander David Fravor, which is the first rung on the disclosure ladder, till now, there's like 18 rungs and counting. David Grush is the top rung right now, where he's in front of Congress and he states that we have biologics. We retrieve bodies from the crash. You'd think that the church would begin to wake up and go, something is going on here. If this is not the great deception, I'll eat my hat, seriously. This is it, it's coming down. When you look at all the different, you mentioned this earlier, like the Avengers and Marvel Comics, but you could go to Ancient Aliens, which is on every single Friday night. They are promulgating this ancient astronaut theory. We're saying no, they're not from Zeta Reticuli or Epsilon Eridani. They are interdimensional entities from the second heaven, which have a very nefarious agenda, which dovetails into biblical prophecy. Because when they show up, men will faint from fear. Absolutely. That even the elect would be deceived if that were, and most of the church, unfortunately, isn't talking about it. Thank God for prophecy watchers. So we've got 9 films. The 9th one will be released in January sometime. But Roswell 1 and 2, the debris field, they're available. And in all of the films, we're the only Christian ministry that's done a deep dive on this. And you sit down, you buy all of them, you watch them, you will not be deceived.
Yeah, that really is the goal of what we're doing here, Prophecy Watchers, and really your work, LA, is trying to help people understand the framework for what we see out in the world. Again, this isn't going away. You can see that our government itself is having these meetings. This disclosure is happening out there, and it's shaping the average, unsuspecting, I would say, unbeliever's worldview. So if this is new to you, I encourage you to check out LA's work, but also to keep your Bible close, because here we are. We're coming to the end of the age, and we expect a great deception as well. Again, at the end of the day, if you have not put Jesus and received Jesus as your Lord and Savior, now is the time. That is the only way not to get sucked into the deception that's coming. So we appreciate you watching this week. Also, as always, appreciate your prayers. We could not do what we do without your prayers and support. So thank you for watching. Thank you, LA, for being here.
You.
And we'll see you next time.
Thanks for joining us on Prophecy Watchers. You can find us on the web at prophecywatchers.com, where you can sign up for our free email newsletter. In the meantime, keep watching, everybody, and we'll see you soon.